else. I read the story of an athlete who said that the only reason why he thought he was able to win his 100-meter dash was because he stood on the start line of that track, and while he was focusing on the finishing line, he was telling himself that every single man here was probably equally prepared like him. But that the only difference now is that he is doing it for his mother. He put it at the back of his head that he needed to do this for the mother. He needed to win that goal for his mother. His mother was his motivation. So when you ask yourself, who are you doing it for? This is also looking for your source of motivation. What is the reason behind this particular action? You understand the why, the pain point, but is there somebody that will benefit, that will be happy, that will feel proud from it? Is that person you, or is that person somebody else? Is it your boss, your better half, your children? Are they members of a society that will probably feel proud that you actually were able to achieve those things? So these are some of the questions you want to ask when you're trying to define your why. And then, what is the value at the end of it? So if I win a gold medal, what's the value of it? Yeah, I get world recognition. I probably get endorsements. My mom becomes proud of me. And might probably lead to me living a better life because I'll have multiple sources of income. And that enough in itself can be a very good value for why you want to do it. So always try to determine, what your value is at the end of your why questions, because you want to first of all understand the pain point. You want to know why it is important, for you to solve that pain point. You want to know who you are doing it for in asking your why question. And at the end of the day, you also want to look at the value at the end of that why. So let's look at reality, yeah? Checking your reality. And I mentioned earlier that checking your reality is quite important because it sits with your belief system. You need to be able to understand whether, one, your goals that you're setting, if they are achievable. Yes. So I hate to flog this, but that's the example that keeps coming to my mind. I buy a brand new car. I'm looking at the 20 million naira brand new car. Oh, let me switch this example and say, I want to rent an apartment, okay? And I realize that, okay, to rent this apartment, I want to live in a specific area. So I've identified a highbrow area that I'd like to live in, and I've identified the kind of house or the kind of flats or building I want to rent. And then I realized that it's going to cost me about 2.5 million naira on a monthly basis, to pay for my house. On a yearly basis to pay for my house rent. Now, I need to look at my current reality in terms of the income that I have. Can I afford to live in this highbrow area, paying that amount of money to my landlord or landlady every year, looking at how much I'm earning as a person? So the first place you want to start is to first define how much you earn annually in this kind of reality, because you want to be able to understand whether what you are setting for yourself is truly achievable. You see, it's one thing for you to have faith, right? But it's one thing for you to also have faith that is supported by works. And in this case, this is the works that is supported, the current work you're doing in terms of how powerful is your income stream for you to be able to achieve this specific goal that you set for yourself, for living in a house, that might be that expensive. But if you see that you already have the means, and you believe within your heart that it's achievable, you've looked at all your income statements, you've looked at all the income streams, and you say, yes, I can do this, then you've already set yourself for, the first pass mark, because already in your mind it is established that it is achievable. The second thing is that you believe it. And that belief also comes from checking your reality, yes? So that you don't have the kind of belief that I call a false belief, right? That you're just hyped up about something, and then you've told yourself that it's achievable, and then at the end of the day, you find out that no, you really don't believe it at the bottom of your heart that you can do it. Like somebody that, started a business, right? And the story of this lady that I heard was, she had to sell her car. She had a little car, and she was a single mother, raising two boys. And it became really tough for her. So she had to sell the little car that she had, and she bought bicycles. What she was doing was, making little confectionaries, baking at home, and then she would deliver to different people in a small bicycle with a basket in front of it. And she kept on to it, and she kept doing it over and over and over and over again. And she was consistent for a period of about 6 years. And eventually her breakthrough came. Now she has bigger stores. She's bought herself another car, and she's moved to a bigger house. Her kids are now even a lot, well grown up, and they can handle themselves now. And now she's a business owner, and not just a business owner. She's doing very well. Now, the story behind the interview was that she told herself that the first thing was that she had to believe that she could do it. As a single mother, that was struggling to get herself together and, didn't have the support of any man. She had to believe in herself and the skills that she had at the back of her hands. And that is where your faith comes in. You see, every time you set your goals and your resolutions, you have to have the faith and the belief that it is doable for you. If you don't have that faith, if the belief is absent that it is doable for you, you already have a big problem. Which means that you're setting goals and resolutions for which that is not anchored in the faith or that's not anchored in belief. That means that for yourself, you doubt, you're already in a place of doubt. And if you're already in a place of doubt, that already becomes a problem, because what happens is 2-3 months down the line, or 2-3 months into the new year, 2-3 months into after you set that resolution on the goal, because you did not believe it, it'll be easier for you to abandon it. You tell yourself, well, it's not achievable anyway in the first place. I don't believe I can achieve this in the first place. I remember also somebody that, had to go through, school without the parents. Now, this was a friend of mine, that we went to school together. Both parents died in a car accident, and he had to take care, of his younger siblings. And this happened at the age of 14. And he was the only person, as the first male child, had to take care of 3 of his other younger ones. And we took all of them through school. It was not easy. But they all went through school. They all went through university. They are all graduates today. They are all settled. They are all fine. They are all doing fantastic. But at the beginning of that journey, I remember my friend would tell me that he never believed it was possible. Yes, he had help from other family members. Yet he had guidance, from other senior members of the family. But the core belief that it was doable, that he will not be a child to fall by the side of the road, that he believed that his education will not end because his parents, that his education will not end with the death of his parents, and that of his siblings too, was a great motivation for him, because he was doing it also for his parents that were gone. And that's why I said that, see, it's very important, remember, to understand your why, who you are doing it for. He did it for his parents at that point. He did it for his siblings at that point, and he did it for himself. And he did it with a lot of belief in it. And now today, he actually achieved it. Now, what is the truth of your current situation? This is the third question I would like you to ask yourself when you're checking your reality. Remember, we're talking about setting goals and resolutions. So you check the truth of your current situation. And usually, I'd like to use an example here of, let's look at the health. Now, your current situation actually will help determine what things you can do. In the scenario, in the case of a health issue, the example I have is of someone that planned to run a marathon race and had been warned by doctors to take it easy on his knee. He had a bad knee. And he actually accumulated or got that bad knee from a lot of activities he's been doing for over 20 years. Quite an athletic person at professional level. But he was already getting old. This person I'm talking about is already in his 50s. And then he wanted to participate, in a marathon that obviously was going to be very challenging, because it was a lot more challenging for even younger people as opposed to someone that's already 50. But his mind was fantastic. His mind was in the right place. He was in good physical condition, except for the bad knee. And his doctors warned him. Now, this was his restraint, because every time he tried to prepare for that marathon, in trying to run and practice, he found out that after he had run for just about an hour and a half, he started having pain in his knee that it would get so bad that he'll have to actually sit down or stop running completely. So that was a big challenge to achieving his goal. And he didn't deal with that knee because he was supposed to go through a knee surgery. He was avoiding that surgery. And now that he wanted to achieve another goal, he had to face his reality to determine whether he would go through that surgery. But the truth of the matter is that once he did that surgery, the chances that he'll be able to run are very limited. But he's a very determined guy, and I'm sure he'll probably be able to do that. So always check your reality, ladies and gentlemen. See your current situation and understand where you're coming from to know whether it is doable or not. And in a lot of examples, you'll be able to see, these things showing up as to whether you can do these things. Look at your reality, how much you're earning, the kind of time that you have. Can you afford these things right now? Because someone that, just wants to be frivolous, for example, wants to buy maybe a brand new smartphone that is pretty expensive, and you know that this smartphone is way out of your budget, but you're still looking at it and you're still setting yourself a goal to buy it. It might not be a realistic goal. It might not be a smart goal. So you want to be able to check that too. And then the last thing here under, one of the few things to do first before you set your goals is to try to determine the cost. What will it cost you to achieve those goals, results, or desires? Or what will it cost you to meet up with that particular resolution? So a few questions that I have here that might help you, in answering that is, you want to ask yourself, what would it cost me in time? So if you have, for example, you want to get a master's degree and you work on the island, in Victoria Island or in Lekki here in Lagos, and you decide that you want to do that course in University of Lagos, like in Akoka. What that means is that you would have to shuttle from work, especially if you don't have weekend classes and you have to come on a daily basis, which means that you come for evening classes. It means you have to shuttle from work every day, leave the island, come to the school, have your courses for about 2 or 3 hours every evening, maybe 6 to 9 or 6 to 8. And then you do that for the entire period for which the course. So sometimes it might have to be for 1 year. What that means is that most of your evenings after work for the next 1 year has been committed to the study in school. What that tells you that time is allocated to that school. That's a cost in time. So if there's something you like to do before when you come back from work, maybe just take off your clothes and raise up your leg and watch a movie or do whatever it is that you do, you have to change that time now because you've already thought about what it's going to cost you, for you to be able to go through, that academic process of achieving or getting, that extra degree that you're looking at. So you want to be looking at yourself in terms of the cost of time, the time it will cost you. That's just an example. The second question I want to ask on that cost that I want you to put at the back of your mind is, when would you start or stop? So if you set a goal, and you pursue that goal, now situation and circumstances usually will happen. Life will happen. So you have to be able to understand at what point will this goal actually expire. There are certain goals that may need to expire even before they are achieved, and certain goals that you may need to review and change the expected results or the desired results of that particular goal. And that is usually how can I put it now? It's usually sometimes a function of time. I'll give you an example. So I've been trying to buy something online for a while, and it was priced in dollars. It took me a while to save up the cash. But by the time I eventually got up to saving up that cash, I'd like to ride a power bike. So I was trying to buy a super sports, a power bike online, through an agent online. And it took me a while to save up the money. And by the time I did save up the money, because I was going to be paying them in dollars, the exchange rate had changed. So by the time the value of my money came to, it wasn't even enough again to match what the new exchange rate was. So that was a constant challenge of constantly having to change, the desired result, because the real goal itself is acquiring the power bike, the super bike, but the activity or the process that requires me to change the goal keeps changing because I couldn't get enough money at once, to save up enough to buy the power bike. So every time, I get up to say. And the funny thing was that the price wasn't changing, so the price was still sitting at about, $3,500. And at $3,500, every time I saved up enough that seemed to match $3,500, the value of the dollar had gone up. And this was at a season when the value of the dollar against the naira was fluctuating rapidly over very short periods of time. So that actually made me revisit that goal and actually decide on something else. So sometimes you might have to do that, to begin to look at when to start on a goal or when to stop. So I decided that, okay, I'll just save up money on the side until I have a substantial amount that can match, whatever the market is saying. That is a tough one, believe me. So we want to also look at the third thing, which says, what would it cost in terms of people, money, and your health? I've given an example of the health, but in this case, we're going to be looking at your people. And what I mean by people, when you make goals and resolutions, one of the questions you want to ask yourself is, does this require me to make new friends, or does it require me to let go of certain existing friends that I have already in my life? Does it require money in terms of, for example, you want to get a new degree or a new certification, you have to pay for it, except it's free. You have to really pay for it. You want to buy a car or a house, you have to pay for it. So you have to have at the back of your mind, what is it going to cost you to achieve this goal? Are you going to deny yourself certain frivolity, so to speak? Would you hang out less? Would you go less to the cinema? Would you spend money less on drinks and hangouts with your friends? Are you going to be spending more time on developing yourself? So you want to know what it's going to cost you in terms of people, money, and most importantly, your health. So if you decide that you want to take up a particular kind of job, like I have a friend that was working, a junior friend per se, that was working in an asbestos ceiling making company. And you know that it is very dangerous, to inhale, particle dust from this asbestos things that we use for our ceilings. And one of the discussions we had at that point was how healthy or how safe it was in terms of the danger to his health. And the organization really did not have, proper health insurance systems and even proper protection for the workers when they went to work. So it was a bit tricky, and it was one of those issues that needed to be looked at, in time to determine whether this particular goal was actually worth pursuing. So I've mentioned all three of them in terms of checking your reality and your cost. So what are the things that you need not do? Things that you should not do. Don't make a decision without thinking through time, reality, and cost. Don't make a decision without thinking through the time, the reality, and the cost. And we've talked about now that, so we've talked about time, reality, and cost, in this conversation that we just had. Don't procrastinate your start date because today matters. It is important for you to be able to engage yourself and start today. Starting today is pretty important for you. And the reason is because do not procrastinate till tomorrow the things that you can do right now. It is important for you to be able to do them right now. So procrastination will become a big issue, because what that means is that you will keep pushing the event till another time. And usually that will become a dream killer or a goal killer or a resolution killer. So that's why I said that sometimes it's not, setting January 1 or having a specific calendar date for setting your goals is not something that you should hold hard and fast. You should be flexible enough to be able to determine goals at any time during the year and be able to set that goals. And once those goals have been set, you've gone through the proper thinking, you've gone through conscious deliberation, you take the right action straight away. So don't delay. Don't delay on starting or working on your goals. Know your limits and don't do an overkill. Exactly, a lot of the things I've been talking about also refers to you staying within your own zone of belief. See, your mind cannot create beyond the state of belief, its own state of belief. So if you are setting your goals and your resolutions and trying to determine things that you want to do for yourself in terms of change that you want to change in your life, and you're trying to determine, the goals and resolutions in terms of results that you want to achieve, stay within your reality, stay within your limit. And when I mean your limit, I mean you are supposed to be able to challenge and extend and expand your own your horizon. You're expected to challenge yourself, but do not do an overkill. Once you are taking challenges, take them in little chunks. Once you are setting your goals, make sure that your goals are within your own desirable and achievable limits. Okay? So you can't decide now that you want to, for someone like me now to say that, okay, with my current financial status now, I want to go and buy a land in Banana Island. I can't afford it. Right now, though, I don't know about tomorrow, but right now I can't afford it. But I'm not going to be staying within my reality, and I'll be doing an overkill if I send myself that kind of goal and tell myself I want to go and buy 2 plots of land on Banana Island with my current financial status. That is an overkill. That is a fantastic goal. That's a big dream, but that is an overkill. So you must learn to put things, within perspective. So the next lesson we're going to be having, I'm going to be talking about 4 things that should characterize your goals and resolutions. And that is coming up on our next lesson. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the time you've given to listen to this. I'll see you at the next one.